At last, we finally come to the last of our brief series covering some of the important differences and changes in the environments between the original Silent Hill 2 and the remake that came out last year. This one should be relatively quick since we're only dealing with one zone this time, the Lakeview Hotel. Well, I say one area. Technically, we left off at Toluca Prison after the Eddie boss fight, so the first order of business is going to be to cross Toluca Lake. Fortunately, there's no trophy connected to clearing the lake in 80 seconds. There is one for literally sitting there for 10 minutes and doing nothing, which is probably a nod to this game not torturing you with a ridiculous 10-star ranking trophy. Instead, you can just chill on the lake, doing nothing. Set a timer because it's boring, but at least it's not stress-inducing. Once you get to the hotel, you'll realize that this zone has been expanded as well. There is now a garden area, and the basement map is split into two. The employee section now has its own separate map, and unlike some of the other zones though, the map of the hotel for each floor is fairly similar to the original. There didn't need to be a massive revamp like there was with the hospital or the apartments to make them feel more realistic. That said, I do feel like the hotel feels more like a real hotel in the environmental design than the original did, but again, that's true for the game as a whole. Another major difference is that the Abstract Daddy doesn't become just a normal recurring enemy here like it was in the original, which is good because it really didn't make that much sense in the original. That was James's perception of what Angela was seeing, not necessarily what she saw. Well, I guess you could probably argue that there could be a reason James was seeing it here at the hotel, depending on how you understand James's character, so I don't want to just make a blanket statement about it not making sense. It's just odd, since it's the only boss-like character we see become a normal enemy, so I'm kind of glad they removed this from the hotel in the remake. Anyway, not long after entering the hotel, James has a run-in with Laura, repeating their encounter in the original game before going off to explore the hotel and find his way to the room where Mary is allegedly waiting for him. There are some repeated puzzles from the original, such as the suitcase and the red light, but there are several other new ones. For example, there's a puzzle where you have to piece together a mirror and use one of two apples, the choice of which can influence what ending you get. There's another puzzle downstairs involving a board and some dice, and another puzzle involves a bookshelf and some paintings around the room. Now, I did mention that the Abstract Daddy boss was gone, but there is in fact one new enemy added here that was not present in the original. The first time you encounter it is actually back when you were running through the other world of South Vale after the hospital. Underneath one of the metal grates, you'll see the creatures under the floor. In fact, they're also under the floor in the labyrinth as well and can attack you from below. This time, it's a boss fight. After defeating it, James continues working his way through the hotel, and down in the basement you'll encounter some more of these, but it's not too difficult to avoid them. The employee section where you have to deposit your inventory is still here. Always thought it was a little annoying, but after replaying the original only a matter of days before playing the remake, it wasn't that bad. As you explore the hotel, you'll also find the different components to the music box in the main lobby. There's still some riddles with it you have to solve, but the main point is getting the different figurines set up and adjusting the different keys to make sure the figurines enter their respective doors, but this version is a little more straightforward. Completing the music box grants you the third floor key, allowing access to the room marked on the map. After watching the VHS tape and having the last conversation with Laura, the hotel changes to the ruined version. This version is a lot easier to get through since there aren't any enemies to worry about. Doesn't mean there aren't any enemies, but you don't have to worry about them because it's quite clear that something is wrong with them. They aren't attacking, they're just simply dying. This is actually a great bit of visual storytelling that wasn't present in the original. Since all the monsters are born from James's denial and his psyche, his acceptance of what he has done has actually broken the power the town has to manifest these monsters. It's also worth noting that it was commonly assumed that this was the nightmare version of the hotel, but that's not actually true. The foggy version we've been in has actually been the otherworld version. The one we see after that cutscene is the real world. The hotel had burned down years ago, and now we're seeing things as they really are. We have our final scene with Angela in the stairwell as expected, and ultimately the fight against the two Pyramid Heads after James finally admits to what he had done and admits his guilt. I think the fight was much more fun in this version, and more hectic. The soundtrack is still great since, after all, SH2 Remake reuses the soundtrack from the original for the most part. Afterward, you have 2 doors and 2 key items to use, the choice of which door you go through and which item you use, also playing a role in which ending you get. After leaving the area, we're treated to the long hallway where we hear one of the last conversations between Mary and James. Again, how long you listen to the conversation influences your ending, and, just like in the original, this also can sort of color your understanding of the dynamic between those two characters, which, again, I'll save for a story analysis video. Finally, we reach the final boss against Maria/Mary. The fight here is largely the same, though this time there are 3 phases. The first is about what you would expect from the fight based on the original. The second phase drops you down into a basement area where you have to shoot her when she drops down out of the ceiling. After she takes enough damage, you'll return back to the main area where she seems a bit more aggressive, sort of like a wild animal lashing out as it's dying in an attempt to save itself. However, as long as you keep your wits about you and have enough ammo, she'll go down and you'll be treated to whatever ending you achieved based on how you played the game. How you get the endings is pretty much the same as the original game from what I remember. There wasn't much that changed as far as that goes, though one joke ending is altered, that being the UFO ending. As I mentioned in my review, I get why they did it, I'm just not sure I like it. Still, the endings are a discussion for another time. And before I forget, let's go over the Easter eggs in this area. Out in the garden area, we find the original Little Mermaid box in a fountain, the Cinderella music box is in a suitcase within the main hotel, and the Snow White music box in the pantry area. All of these are the locations in the original game as well. And lastly, in the ruined hotel, you can find the cassette tape player with headphones that played the conversation with Mary's doctor in the original. Overall, I was highly impressed and very pleased with all the revisions through the remake, especially the changes to the prison and labyrinth. I didn't think it would be possible to make those sections enjoyable, but they proved me wrong. The realism and detail the environments have now made it feel much more like a real town that had been taken over by the supernatural, and, as I said in an earlier video, looks to me now what I feel like I thought the game looked like back when I first played the PC version back in the early 2000s. I really do think Bloober Team did a phenomenal job with this, and I definitely look forward to finally getting my hands on Chronos: The New Dawn and seeing what they accomplished there. Anyway, that's it for this series. I hope to throw together a short mini-series showcasing how the characters are portrayed between the two, and what I thought about the changes or adjustments. Until then, you all take care.